Are you ready to start printing with your new printer? Let's get it loaded and calibrated so we get a perfect first print. Hey guys, and welcome back to today's video. So if you caught the last video where we took this thing out of the box, this new CR-10 V2, and got it started and got it ready to start printing, well, if you didn't, go back to the video and see us unbox it and talk about some of the differences. There are more differences from the CR-10 that I've found as I've worked on it and gotten this ready to go. But today we are getting it calibrated for its first print. So the tasks that we're going to complete in this video are, we're going to load filament for the first time. We're going to level the bed. We're going to take a look at the software that came, the projects that came with the printer, and we're going to get started on its first print. So here we go on getting the filament loaded. So for filament, I am using Inland Premium PLA. PLA Plus, this is 1.75 millimeter, which is what this printer uses. From stores, this PLA costs about $20. $18.99 I think is what it retails for. Amazon, different places, you'll find different prices. So the first thing we're gonna do is I've already cut off the plastic. This will be vacuum sealed in the box. So I've already cut that off and got it ready to go. So what we'll do is we will mount the PLA over on the arm of the CR-10 over here. We'll get it threaded in and get it through the Bowden tube, ready to there. Then we'll heat up we'll power on our printer. We'll heat it up, we'll have our PLA loaded. Then the next step is the daunted manual leveling of the bed. But this is so key that it has to be right. If you don't have your bed level, you are not gonna get good plate cohesion, you're gonna get an uneven print, and it's just gonna be a bummer. You're gonna waste PLA, you're gonna waste money, and it's not something we want. So let's get this PLA loaded. Okay, so we've got the control box, the arm, we've got our spool of PLA right here. So the PLA is taped on here. Now some people may say just take the tape off. I don't recommend that because that sticky stuff will stay on your PLA and that then is getting in your printer. And I don't like that idea, so I snip it. I don't know why I'm using these scissors when I've got good snips, but that's okay. So the way I recommend loading is always the feeding part up. That way it's ready to go into your printer. So that way it's feeding upward because your arm is going to lower up and down. So having it up like this lets it pull it down or pull it up. Where if down here, I've noticed from practice, if it's the other way, there's more pressure on the string of PLA. So the next thing what you'll do is you'll bring it over to your printer and you'll get it into the sensor and then through your extruder mount here. So as you can see, here's your PLA sensor and here's your extruder mount. Now, nice thing about the CR-10 that they changed over the other Creality printers, the Ender 3, the original CR-10, this was plastic on the old models. Boo, plastic, you'll suffer erosion in here and different things like that, but you could reprint other parts. The PLA sensor is something new as well. So if you run out of PLA, this is gonna halt your print till you reload and then resume your print, which is awesome because it's a huge money savings too. It's gonna stop you from losing prints, which is great. So, as I said, we just need to take the PLA, feed it in to the sensor. You notice the sensor activated when I did that. Then we'll just push it through, pull the arm back, we'll push this through into the mount. Now, I tend to leave this part right here loose. So I can undo it. Because sometimes I've found that this will get stuck right there. And I'll push a little bit through, then I'll get it into the Bowden tube and push it tight. And then I'll just hand screw that guy tight again. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy peasy. And then I'll push the filament till I can't push anymore. Now I have not heated my nozzle. New printer, you can kind of get away with this a little bit. So now we have the filament fed into the printer. It's all the way through this wonderful Bowden tube to your hot end here. So your filament is loaded. And one thing too to keep in mind, keep this tight. So pull back on your spindle so you've got that tight, so you don't get off your spindle and then it gets a knot, it breaks. Now granted, the sensor is going to prevent you from losing your print, but it's just a pain in the butt when that happens. So now what we got to do is I want to talk about the frame. So one thing that is important is that this top frame is 90 degrees correct. So if it is not 90 degrees correct right here, your prints are not going to come out correctly. So if you saw in the last video, I recommended our handy tool, the Carpenter Square. So all we got to do, pretty easy, is put this guy in place and make sure we are at a perfect 90 degrees. If it's sitting correctly, no gap, and check both sides, you're good to go. You're in a happy place. And that's what you want. You want to be in that happy place. Because if you're not, well, your prints aren't going to go well. So next comes the fun point. We need to get the bed ready to go. So we're going to come over here to our control box, and we're going to go to prepare. We're going to go to auto home, which is going to bring everything down to the home position on the printer. Our bed's moving into place. I've got it too far back, so the bed couldn't move right. That's what that was. And now our Z-axis is going to drop down into position, which is what we want. Now, there's many ways that you can level a bed. I do the paper and needle method. It's not always the best, but it's what I tend to use. So what that means is I'm going to get this down into home position. I'm going to use a piece of paper and manually adjust and move until I've got these in the proper position. Now, are there other ways to do this? Yes, you can add the BL Touch to this printer with no problem. The really cool thing about this printer is the BL Touch, the mount's already here. They included it, and BL Touch is already supported by this printer. You just have to turn it on in the firmware. So, we should be in home position now, I believe. And looking at this, you can see my bed is way off from even touching my nozzle. And those springs down here are tight, which is a bit not of a good thing. So I'm going to do a little bit of work and get this a little bit closer, and I'll show you guys how to finalize your bed tightening and leveling. So as you heard me say, bed leveling is a very critical piece to any print. The BL Touch is awesome because it will help you get a perfect level bed, but we need to manually get the bed in position first. Even with the BL Touch, you need to have your bed somewhat level. The BL Touch is just a correcting for minor errors. If your bed is way off, it isn't going to fix that, and that's going to be a huge problem for you in the long run. So, and you're going to get bad adhesion, especially with glass plates or anything like that. And we want to make sure you don't have that problem. So I've unscrewed the bed up close to the nozzle. And what I tend to do when I level is I shut the printer off. I don't have to disable my steppers or anything when I do that. The printer's off. And then what I do is pretty simplistic. So I've got the nozzle. I move it over the table a little bit, and it's a piece of paper, as you can see. And what I'll do is I will unscrew that nozzle until the plate is close enough that I can feel it snagging on the paper. See how it's gotten harder for me to move the piece of paper? That means my nozzle is getting closer to my plate, which is great. So then what I've got to do is I've got to move it over a little bit. Repeat the same process. So I'm going to loosen this side and try to bring it up some more because I had to loosen this side. And you got to keep doing minute adjustments. Like I've probably got this one too much now, to where it's just snagging it. Then you'll move it again. And you'll spin the wheel until you're getting the same. And you can see it snagged the paper on me. And then again, keep moving back. So right now the paper is still pretty well snagged. It's good. I can't move the paper there though. That's not good. So I need to undo that a little bit. I've got it too high. Now I can move the paper again. Move it over a little bit more. It's a little bit looser, so I'll loosen this side a little bit. Then I'll move it again. And I'll keep moving it until I'm towards the back of the plate, which, as you can see, I can't really move the paper right now. So I need to tighten this one back down a little bit. Not a lot. Sometimes it is very minor movement. And then keep repeating the same process. So I'm a little loose there, so I'm going to loosen this side. And then I'm going to move it over here. I can still move it. It's still a little loose. So I'm going to tighten it up. So now, here's the fun part of bed leveling. Do it all again. So we did the entire table in 9 points. So now, I'm going to take my piece of paper off. I'm going to push my table back. I'm going to go right back to square one. And guess what? I'm too high now. I can't get under the nozzle. So I've got to tighten again. Just enough that it snags that paper. Right there. Then I'll move over to the center again. I'm doing pretty good. Move it again. I'm snagging pretty good. All right, here, I'm too high. So I'm going to tighten my front screw and I'm going to tighten my back screw a little bit. A lot better. Middle of my plate. Perfect. There. Perfect. I'm going to move to the back of my plate. Loving it. A little too much on that side, so I'm going to give it a little bit of loosening again. Better. And I'm going to keep doing this until I feel like I've got a good hold. And right now, for 9 points, 2 run-throughs, that's pretty much bed leveling. Manually done. But as you can hear, it's actually dragging my nozzle. That's not good. So we gotta pull that down a little bit. And that's gonna readjust this front part again to way too loose. So we gotta loosen it. Now, is it possible to get a printer with a warped bed? Yes. There, it's snagging onto the paper. She's being a little difficult. Even for people that have been doing this for a long time, manual bed leveling can be a nightmare. So right there, I've got it. Take the piece of paper out. I've still got some drag on the bed. The last thing you want is this dragging on your bed. You don't want that because it can scar the glass plate and it can do a lot of just bad things. But it is insistent, and it's such a minute thing to get it right. Now I'm calibrating for PLA. I'm going to print with PLA, and I'm still getting drag. So I'll keep adjusting until I've got a little bit of drag on the paper, but I'm not dragging on my plate. So this can be time consuming. It can be annoying, but it's necessary to get this right and get those good prints that we are hoping to have with this printer. Now the hope would be, you know, right out of the box, your printer's ready to go. That's not true at all. That is not true at all. You've always got to keep working on that manual calibration. Because as you move one nozzle, you throw the others all out of sync. But we're getting fairly close now. We got our gantry aligned properly. The paper's snagging really well. But we do still have some drag, and it's not a carriage issue, which is good. So I'm going to just minutely turn both sides to get rid of that drag. And I think we're still a little high in the back. So I'll turn a little bit to get that raise. And there we go. We're ready for our first test. So now what we'll do, the printer's ready with PLA. Now we got to go to the computer and get the model ready. So I will catch you guys at the computer. Okay, so I got Cura loaded. I got my settings. So Cura is a really neat program. It's from Ultimaker. It is a really good slicer. You get a lot of options. Mine is customized. They have a marketplace that you can go to that lets you download plugins, which is what I've done. I've got some plugins installed to let me see this right sidebar, to let me have my settings more at my fingers touch. But you can rotate, change sizes of projects, and put different things on your plate. You can see it's loading up. Here's the ones that I have installed. The sidebar GUI is what I'm talking about here with the sidebar. So we've got a new printer. I don't want to use my CR-10, my current CR-10 settings for my CR-10 V1 that I have in the background that you might be hearing. I want to create a new set of settings for the CR-10. So what you'll do, if you're first installing Cura from the Ultimaker website, it is free, great program. I recommend you download it. What you'll need to do is we'll need to go into settings and go to printer and add printer. So my printer is not networked, so I have to go here, and they have all kinds of printer base profiles in here. Now, they have a base profile. That's great. You're gonna have to tweak it. Every printer is a little different. Each one has its quirk. But you go in here and you find your printer, which mine is a Creality 3D. And as you can see, there's no CR-10 V2 profile. There's all kinds of CR-10 stuff, but I'm gonna choose just a base CR-10 profile. I'm gonna click Add. There's my plate table. Origin at center, not for mine. My bed is heated. G-code is going to be in Marlin. I don't need anything special for my G-code right now. And I'm just going to look at the extruder, 1.75, no offset, and there's no special programming input here yet. This is just base G-code for the printer. You can choose a different flavor if you want to of programming. It just kind of depends on what you're into. So there are all kinds of options that you can choose. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. That's going to add the printer. So you can see I have my number 2, which is my original printer, and it's added the CR-10 V1. Now, for ease of today, I'm just going to go ahead and try my CR-10, my original CR-10 settings. And I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Open Files, and I'm going to go to my Downloads, and I downloaded a file for a calibration cube. Quick little thing. One I like to do, it's a 3D object. I'm going to open that, and you'll see it'll put it down on the plate here. And it's a simple just calibration cube. And just to make sure, I'm going to go to camera position, and I want to view it from the front, which is going to be the X, which is great. So if this prints right, the letters should be clear. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to use my settings for my current one, and I'm going to hit slice. That's going to slice the file and get it ready to go to my printer. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save to removable, which I think D is mine. You know, 1 second, let me hop off screen here real quick. Yes, D is where I want it to go. So we're going to save that to the removable, and file has saved. It's ready to go using my settings. I'll just scroll through some of the settings here. If you guys are interested in my setting file, I will gladly share it. So I got my travel, my cooling all set up. Build plate, it's going to use a raft to adhere to the build plate. One, I like the raft, especially with this calibration, because it's going to print over a wider area. And here, I'll show you this. If you click preview, it's going to show you what it's actually going to print. So it's actually going to print that raft, a big raft, which I'm fine with for this, because it's going to show me if it's going to drag or if it's printing uneven on the plate. Just to get started, this is what I'm okay with. Now the monitor function up here, if I had this connected USB to my computer, I could actually run this all from Cura right now. I don't have that. I'm using the SD card for this round. This printer will eventually get hooked up to Octoprint, which is a
remote control interface that uses a Raspberry Pi that's connected to it that lets me control my printers from a web browser. Pretty cool, slick software. More to come on that. But this print is going to take 1 hour. It's going to take 9 grams. And average cost for this print is going to be 17 cents. So kind of cool thing. Cura gives you a lot of good information. It lets you see what you're doing. If I wanted to, I've already saved it, so I'll do this. If I wanted to make this guy 400 times bigger, I can, and rebalance him on the plate. Am I going to do this? Am I going to print this guy this way? No. Waste of money for right now. We're just trying to get the printer calibrated and ready to rock and roll.
Okay, since we got everything now on the wonderful SD card, now we're going to plug it into the side here. If I can orient it right. Alright, so we got that plugged in. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the button. We're going to scroll down to print from TF. Select English. And we're going to go to the CR-10 calibration. So the bed is now heating. Now, unfortunately, like the older CR-10, it heats the bed, then it will heat the thing, and then it will get ready to print. Instead of heating both of them at the same time, I don't know. So now what we're going to do is we're going to watch this calibration print, and then we're going to take a look at it at the end, and hopefully, if it comes out well, we're ready to start using our CR-10. Catch you guys at the end of the print. All right, well, the calibration cube is done. Easily removed from the printer. Not so easily removed from the wrap, but that's okay. That's pretty common with wraps. So, and it printed perfectly. The cube, the X, Y, and Z are perfectly printed. This printer's ready to get rock and rolling. So I'm gonna move this guy to his permanent home, and I'm gonna start using him for my day-to-day use. Again, this is a Creality CR-10 V2. Awesome printer. Link down below if you're interested in getting one for yourself or you already got one. But here, that's the base calibration tips you got to get started. If you guys like what you saw today, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment, give some interest. Maybe you want to see a print done on here. Also below is my Patreon. If you guys want to assist and want to see a print or something like that, hit up my Patreon and we'll go from there. I appreciate you guys and I appreciate you guys' time today. We'll see you in the next video.